Let's go back to one of our top stories. Of course, as Paul Mashatile waits to be sworn in as the Deputy President of the country, he also stands accused of misleading the North West High Court. The matter relates to a case opened by a party member, Sello Molefe, who claims Mashatile committed fraud and perjury by appointing deceased people to the ANC North West Interim Provincial Committee during his tenure as Acting Secretary General. Molefe claims that Mashatile lied in a case that sought to nullify the 9th Provincial Conference by telling the court the party's NEC had resolved to reappoint the IPC that organised the conference. Let's now speak to Northwest University political analyst Sysman Motloung. Thank you so much for your time, Sysman. How damaging are these allegations?
I think what is happening here is something that is very critical, and it is casting aspersion on the integrity of Mr. Mashatile as an honest person. And if it's somebody who will deliberately mislead the court for nefarious reasons. So if this is true, and then it happens, already we've seen reports about him confirming and admitting to this and saying this was an honest mistake. But now that he's in a court of law and would be charged for that, it would now come to that aspect where those who feel that he should not continue in the position of a deputy president would now start to campaign around this step-aside rule within the ANC. That's what maybe his detractors would be looking forward to, especially those who are in the Northwest who felt that his actions deliberately impeded a particular outcome. There could have been a different outcome to this provincial conference, but his interference indeed swayed an outcome to what he wanted.
And I'm going to get to what this means now for the conference in just a moment. But as you alluded to earlier on in his response, he says that, as I was reading the court papers, he says, I apologize unreservedly for this error. And he also says functionaries within Luthuli House were responsible for compiling the necessary documents, and further says that he was performing multiple tasks in multiple positions at the time, and there were always demands with very little time at his disposal. In your view, could this be enough to sway the courts?
You see, what he is saying is similar to what Mr. Ramaphosa is saying about Phala, that I don't know about the money. Somebody who's tasked with managing my business should have declared the monies, and they did not. So it should not be me. We see the elite in the ANC. They are quick to pass off culpability to other people instead of them taking responsibility. First, you hear in the ANC when they nominate these people to positions of power, they talk about how they are privy to the processes of the move of the organization. They are experienced, and these are disciplined people, and there is that expectation for them to be diligent in their work. And now when he says, I dropped the ball because I was busy, it begs the question to say, does he not quality check processes before they go? Because it's his office. Those people are assisting him. You can imagine now a public protector saying a particular report that is released to the public was not her responsibility. This will be a big uproar in the public. So this is just an excuse. What I also would want to think is that what he did, he could have been deliberately knowing and aware of it, and it could be also feeding to those narratives when you have heard before that the Secretary General position is a most powerful position in terms of blocking.
Yeah. Pardon me, very briefly, just before I get to my last question, what does this then mean for the conference that we saw in the Northwest last year?
Well, it now puts that into question. And if the court will say the outcomes of that conference, should they be nullified or isn't, should there be a rerun? I don't think they will be possible at this level, because the outcome, even at the national conference, you want to say there has to be a rerun of a national conference. So I don't think there will be much to affect the Northwest Conference at all. Yeah. It will be bygones for now. I think it will be holding him accountable, maybe internally, the ANC having to do something about that but I don't think it will be anything showing off for him at the moment.
As a final question then, Songezo Zibi writes in the Daily Maverick today that the country is at a critical tipping point and that the cabinet reshuffle leaves South Africa just one presidential scandal away from a chaotic Mashatile-EFF collaboration. Your thoughts?
It would be interesting to know as to, is Mashatile so ambitious that he'd want to topple Mr. Ramaphosa? Does he see himself as a number one now? And if he were to collaborate with the EFF, it then makes sense that there would be this kind of noises now about him being dishonest and misleading and maybe falsifying documents of the organization. So this is something about fraudulent act. And I think if he should go that way, there certainly will be backlash. And I don't think so much that it is something that he might survive if he does not have the support of other provinces. So I think it will be a long shot if we were to go that way.
All right, let's see then how all of these developments play out. Thank you so much for your time, Sysman. That was Northwest University political analyst Sysman Motloung.